In the bustling heart of Dhaka, where the city's rhythm never ceased, lived a couple whose love story was the envy of many. Arman, a dedicated software engineer, and Zara, a passionate schoolteacher, had been married for 8 years. Their union was built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and countless memories that painted the canvas of their life together. Every morning, Arman would brew 2 cups of tea, one for himself and one for Zara, a ritual they cherished. They would sit on their balcony watching the city awaken, sharing thoughts and laughter. Their home was filled with warmth, the walls adorned with photographs capturing their journey from college sweethearts to life partners. However, as time passed, subtle changes began to surface. Arman's work commitments grew, leading to late nights and weekend meetings. Zara, too, became engrossed in her teaching, often bringing work home. The once frequent conversations became sporadic, replaced by brief exchanges about daily chores and responsibilities. Despite the growing distance, Arman remained oblivious, attributing the changes to the demands of adulthood. He believed that their bond was unbreakable, fortified by years of shared experiences. Zara, on the other hand, felt a void, a yearning for the connection they once had. It was during a school reunion that Zara reconnected with Rafiq, a former classmate. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, reminiscent of their youthful days. Rafiq's attentive nature and genuine interest in her life reignited feelings Zara hadn't realized she missed. Their interactions became frequent, initially innocent, discussing literature and reminiscing about school days. However, as weeks turned into months, their bond deepened. Zara found herself eagerly awaiting Rafiq's messages, the anticipation bringing a spark to her otherwise monotonous days. One evening, after a particularly engaging conversation with Rafiq, Zara sat on her balcony, the city lights shimmering below. She reflected on her marriage, the love that once burned brightly now reduced to embers. The realization was painful, yet undeniable. Meanwhile, Arman noticed subtle changes in Zara. She seemed distant, often lost in thought, her laughter less frequent. He attributed it to work stress, unaware of the emotional turmoil brewing within. As their 9th anniversary approached, Arman planned a surprise getaway, hoping to rekindle their bond. He envisioned serene beaches, candle-lit dinners, and heartfelt conversations. However, when he shared his plans, Zara hesitated, citing work commitments. Disappointed but understanding, Arman postponed the trip, unaware of the underlying reasons. Zara's internal conflict intensified. She grappled with guilt, torn between her marital vows and the emotional solace she found in Rafiq. Their meetings, though discreet, became more frequent, each encounter blurring the lines of right and wrong. One afternoon, as Zara prepared for a meeting with Rafiq, she received a message from Arman. "Thinking of you. Let's have dinner together tonight." A pang of guilt washed over her, but she brushed it aside, replying with a simple, "Sure." That evening, over dinner, Arman shared stories from his day, his eyes lighting up as he spoke. Zara listened, forcing smiles, her mind elsewhere. Arman noticed her detachment but chose not to confront it, fearing the answers he might receive. Days turned into weeks, and the emotional chasm between them widened. Zara's affair with Rafiq, once a source of excitement, now became a burden, the weight of deceit pressing heavily on her conscience. One night, unable to bear the duplicity, Zara penned a letter to Arman confessing her infidelity. Tears stained the paper as she poured out her remorse, acknowledging the pain she had caused. She left the letter on his desk and retreated to their bedroom, awaiting the inevitable confrontation. Arman discovered the letter the next morning. As he read Zara's words, a whirlwind of emotions engulfed him: shock, betrayal, sorrow. He sat, in silence, the weight of the revelation sinking in. When he finally approached Zara, his voice was calm but laced with pain. "Why?" he asked, searching her eyes for answers. Zara, tears streaming down her face, whispered, I felt alone, disconnected. I never stopped loving you, but I lost myself. Their conversation stretched into the early hours, filled with raw emotions and painful truths. They both acknowledged their shortcomings, the gradual erosion of their bond. While forgiveness seemed distant, they agreed to seek counseling, hoping to navigate the turbulent waters ahead. After that night, nothing felt the same in their home. The silence between Arman and Zara was no longer peaceful. It was loaded, heavy, tangible. Mornings, once warmed by shared cups of tea and playful teasing, turned into cold, quiet routines. Arman would rise early and leave without a word. Zara would wait until the front door clicked shut before crawling out of bed, sitting at the edge for minutes that felt like hours, just staring at the floor. She had broken him and herself. And yet, she didn't know if either of them could be whole again. Counseling sessions began with uncertainty. Their therapist, a kind yet firm woman named Dr. Yasmin, tried to create a space where they could speak freely. Arman was reluctant at first, answering questions with short phrases, his eyes never really meeting Zara's. But he showed up. That alone was something. Zara, on the other hand, spilled her soul. I didn't go looking for it, she said once, during a session. But I didn't stop it either. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. Arman's jaw clenched. You could have told me. You could have said something. I did, she snapped. You just didn't hear me. I kept reaching for you. You just kept walking away. Dr. Yasmin watched them with practiced calm. You both stopped trying long before this happened, she said gently. Now the question is, do you want to try again? Neither of them answered that day. Weeks passed. Zara ended all contact with Rafiq the same night she confessed. She sent him a long message, not just ending it, but admitting to herself what it really was: a lifeline in a storm, a distraction, an escape. Rafiq tried to respond, but she blocked him without reading it. That chapter was closed. Arman, meanwhile, buried himself in work, not because he had to, but because it was the only place he could feel control. In the sterile environment of code and logic, there were no gray areas, only right or wrong, success or failure, truth or lies. One evening, weeks after the truth came out, Arman stayed home for dinner. They ate in near silence, chewing slowly, avoiding each other's eyes. But as they finished, Arman cleared his throat. Do you still love me? He asked. Zara's eyes met his for the first time in what felt like days. I do, she said, voice trembling. I never stopped. That's the worst part. He nodded almost mechanically. Then why did you do it? I needed to feel like I mattered, that someone still saw me, still wanted me. You were right there, but it felt like you were gone. Arman's voice cracked as he asked, So what now? I don't know, she whispered. I'm still trying to figure that out. They sat in silence again, but this time it felt different. Not avoidance, something more like pause, processing. The following weeks were marked by cautious attempts to reconnect. Small gestures. Arman began texting her during the day, nothing deep, just a check-in, a how's your day, a picture of a cat on the office balcony. Zara started leaving notes on his lunchbox. Jokes, encouragements. Sometimes just a heart drawn in pen. But trust. Trust was another beast. Arman started noticing himself spiraling. If Zara smiled at her phone, he wondered. If she stayed late. At school, he wondered. If she seemed distant, he wondered. Once he followed her after work. She went to a coffee shop, alone, took out her laptop, graded papers, stayed an hour, left. He hated himself for doing it, when he confessed what he had done. Expecting her anger, Zara surprised him. "You don't have to apologize for that," she said softly. "You have every reason to doubt me. I'm not expecting you to trust me right away." That broke something in him. Not trust, not love, but maybe a small opening. One night, months later, they sat side by side on their balcony for the first time since the affair. The city still buzzed. Horns honked, lights flickered, life went on. "I think I still want this," Zara said. Armin looked at her, his eyes tired but not cold. "I don't know if I can ever forget, but maybe I can forgive. Eventually." Zara nodded. "That's more than I deserve." "It's not about what you deserve," he said. "It's about what we choose next." They fell into a long silence, both staring at the sky. No stars that night, just the soft glow of the city and the weight of everything between them. Later that week, they returned to counseling, not because things were fixed, but because they were beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could be. But healing wasn't linear. There were still fights, still tears. Armand still had nights when he couldn't sleep, lying awake replaying old conversations, questioning everything. Zara still struggled with self-loathing, wondering how she let things fall, so far, and yet they stayed, not out of habit, but hope. In one particularly raw session, Armin said something that made Zara cry for hours. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust the way I did before, but I still wake up hoping I can try. And that has to count for something." Zara reached for his hand. "Then let's keep trying. Not perfect, not healed, not the same, but present, together, and trying, and trying." Time passed, not quickly, not easily, but enough to soften the sharpest edges of the past. 3 months after Zara's confession, their house didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. It still held ghosts of the words they'd screamed, the tears they'd shed, the truths they couldn't unspeak. But the air felt a little lighter now. The spaces between them weren't filled with silence anymore. They were filled with effort. Armand and Zara didn't pretend everything was fine. That would have been easier, but it wouldn't have been honest. And they were tired of pretending. One evening, they were folding laundry together, something so ordinary, so mundane, and Zara suddenly said, "I deleted all our photos last year." Armin paused, his hands frozen mid-fold. "Why?" "I couldn't look at them anymore," she replied, voice low. "We looked happy. I didn't feel happy. I felt forgotten. Like I'd disappeared into the background of your life." Armin swallowed hard. "I didn't know you felt that way. I didn't know how to tell you. And when I finally realized it, I'd already started confiding in someone else." She didn't say his name. She never did anymore. They both stood still, surrounded by half-folded clothes and the heavy truth between them. Then Armin said something that surprised even himself. "I miss us, the way we used to be. But I also miss the version of you who told me everything, even the ugly stuff. I want her back." Zara blinked, holding back tears. "She wants to come back? She's just scared you won't want her anymore?" He reached for her hand. "I do." The decision to take a short trip together wasn't impulsive. It was deliberate. Their therapist had suggested it. Get out of your routine, make new memories, change the scenery if you want to change the story. So they chose Sylhet. Somewhere quiet, somewhere green, somewhere far enough to feel different but close enough to still be real. The first day was awkward. They sat beside each other on the flight, stiff, forced smiles, small talk. It felt like two acquaintances trying to recall why they ever fell in love. But on the second day, it rained, heavily, trapped inside a small wooden bungalow with nothing but tea, old blankets, and each other. They began to talk. really talk. Not about the past, not about the betrayal, but about themselves. Zara told Armin things she hadn't said in years, about her fears of becoming invisible, about the loneliness that crept in between dinner tables and sleepless nights, about how she sometimes felt like a guest in her own marriage. Armin listened, fully, no judgment, no defensiveness, just listening. Then he spoke. He told her about his exhaustion, how he'd put pressure on himself to provide, succeed, and protect their future. How, in doing so, he had completely failed to protect their present. How he had slowly started seeing their marriage as a responsibility instead of a relationship. "It was easier to hide and work than to face the fact that I was losing you," he said. "And by the time I realized, you were already gone." They cried together that night, not from anger, but from mourning, grieving the love they'd once had and the damage they'd done to it. But in those tears, something unexpected happened. They laughed. Somewhere between sadness and honesty, they remembered the way they used to hold hands and laugh at silly things. They remembered the inside jokes, the strange way Armin snored like a cat purring when he slept on his back, the way Zara used to make weird faces while brushing her teeth. They kissed that night, not out of passion, not out of obligation, but out of memory, out of hope. When they returned to Dhaka, things weren't magically fixed, but the air between them had changed. They began spending evenings together again, watching old Bengali films, cooking together. Sometimes, sitting in silence with music in the background, Arman started journaling, something Dr. Yasmin had recommended. Every night he'd write a few lines. Sometimes it was about his feelings, sometimes about work, sometimes just about the color of the sky that day. Zara began painting again, really painting. Not just for galleries or commissions, but for herself. One night she painted them. Two figures standing on a bridge, arms around each other, facing a storm. Together. He saw it the next morning and said nothing, just hugged her. But healing wasn't a movie montage. There were setbacks. One night, Armin found an old email notification buried in Zara's inbox. It was from Rafiq. Months old, unread, unopened. Still, it hit him like a punch to the chest. He didn't say anything right away. He just walked out. He didn't answer calls. He didn't come home until midnight. When he finally did, Zara was waiting, tears already brimming. "I never replied. I didn't even open it. I swear." "I know," he said quietly. "But it still hurt?" "Yeah." They sat in silence for a long time, the weight of the moment pressing down on both of them. "I don't want to feel this way," Armin whispered. "I don't want you to feel this way either." "You broke me, Zara." She nodded. "And I'm still here, trying to help put you back together, even if I can't ever fix it completely." His voice was barely audible. "What if I never stop hurting?" She reached across the space between them. "Then we'll hurt together." And that was what they did. Some days were good. Some were hard. There were moments when Armin would reach for her without thinking, and then hesitate. Moments when Zara would smile, only to feel guilt crash over her like a wave. But slowly, piece by piece, they began to rebuild. Not what they had, something new, less innocent, less perfect, but more honest, more real. They started saying, "I love you," again, not automatically, not casually, intentionally, with meaning. Because every time they said it now, it wasn't just a feeling, it was a choice to stay, a choice to heal, a choice to forgive, even when it still hurt, even when it was hard, especially then. They say time heals all wounds, but some wounds don't heal. They change you. They scar. They become part of who you are. Constant reminders of the battles you survived and the things you lost in the process. It had been a year since Zara's confession. 1 year since Arman's world had broken in half, And yet, here they were. Not broken, but bent. Still fragile, but no longer hollow. And perhaps most importantly, still together. But now, something else loomed ahead. It was Zara's younger sister's wedding. The entire extended family was gathering for the occasion. A sea of relatives, friends, whispers, expectations, and judgments. And everyone would be watching them. Zara hadn't told her family the full truth. She didn't need to. Rumors travel faster than confessions, and somewhere along the way, people had already decided what kind of woman she was at tea. The Mehendi ceremony, as music played and laughter filled the air, Zara stood by a window, watching from the sidelines. Her hands decorated with henna, but her heart heavy. She could feel the stares, the glances, the hushed voices behind smiles. She's lucky her husband didn't leave her. After what she did, I would have walked away. Some men are just weak. She clenched her jaw, trying not to cry, but the humiliation sat like fire in her throat. Later that evening, Armin found her in a quiet corner of the garden, sitting alone beneath the fairy lights. He sat beside her without a word. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," she whispered. "Every time I walk into a room, I feel like I'm wearing my mistake like a scarlet letter." He looked out into the dark, his voice calm but firm. "I'm not staying with you because I'm weak." She turned toward him. "I'm staying because I love you, because I believe people can change, and because I'd rather rebuild something broken with you than start something fake with someone else." Zara looked at him, overwhelmed. "What did I ever do to deserve that?" "You didn't," he replied. "And I didn't deserve what happened either. But here we are, still choosing each other." She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. And for the first time that evening, she exhaled. But the world didn't let up so easily. One evening, Armin received a job offer from Singapore, a major promotion, nearly double his current salary, and a chance to start fresh in a new country. Zara watched him pack for the interview trip like a silent observer. Part of her wanted him to take it. He deserved it. A new life, away from everything, away from her, but part of her feared what that distance could mean. When he returned, she met him at the airport. He smiled, not too wide, not too forced, just tired. They rode home in silence. That night, he broke the news. "They want me to relocate by December. It's a 2-year contract, renewable." Zara nodded. "Barely. Will you go?" "I don't know yet." He looked at her. Really looked. "Do you want me to stay?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I don't want to be the reason you give up something you deserve." "You're not giving me an answer, Zara." She paused, then walked over and sat beside him. "I want you to stay, but only if part of that choice is me." He took her hand. "It is." Weeks passed. They spoke about everything, their dreams, the future, whether a clean slate would help or hurt. In the end, Armin made his decision. He declined the offer. His company wasn't happy, but he didn't care. Some decisions are about career, some are about life, and some are about love. He didn't want a clean slate. He wanted to finish what they started, even if it was messy. 2 months later, they renewed their vows. Not in front of a crowd, no photographers, no fanfare, just them, standing barefoot on a beach just outside Chattogram. They wrote their own vows this time. Zara's voice trembled as she said hers. "I will never be perfect. I will never be whole. But I will always be honest. I will always show up. I will always love you with everything that's left." Armin's voice cracked as he responded. "I won't forget what happened, but I'll remember how we got through it. I choose you again, not the you from before, not the you I imagined, but the real you, flawed, brave, mine." They kissed as the sun dipped below the waterline. Two people. not healed, but healing, not perfect, but honest, not who they once were, but still in love. And that's how their story continued, not with a fairy tale ending, but with a real one, built from ashes and choices